All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining another session of Community Conversations. My name is Michael Elliott, Director of Neighborhood Economic Development with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. And I'll be monitoring this, be the moderator for this wonderful panel as we talk about community resources within the greater Cleveland area. I just want to give a quick shout out to a special to WOVU, who will be rebroadcasting this session, this event on 95.9. WOVU is Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr station. So again, we're going to get into a little conversation as it relates to economic development resources for small businesses within our region. I'm going to take a moment for our guests, our two guests here. I'm sure they're very well known, but I'm going to have these gentlemen introduce themselves or reintroduce themselves to those who are attending. Michael, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the members today.
Sure. Thank you, Michael Elliott. Michael Obi is my name. I'm an economic development professional, a former banker. So capital and economic development for communities has been my vocation, since for the past 20 years plus. What I currently do is I'm the president of UBIZ Venture Capital, which is the lending and access to capital arm that I launched in partnership with the Urban League a couple of years ago. I'm also an entrepreneur in the community. So that makes me a little unique because I practice what I preach. When I talk with businesses, I do workshops. Those that know me in the community know that I bring a practical, real life example. I go through the same pain of trying to make payroll, just like everybody else. And I've gone through the same challenge of trying to get loan from a bank. And some say yes and some say no. So that makes what I bring to the discussion a little bit unique. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lamont, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Both Michaels, I'm glad to be here with both of you all to engage in this discussion. My name is Lamont Mackley. I'm the Chief Inclusion and Outreach Officer here at JumpStart. I've been at JumpStart now over 11 years and had many different capacities at JumpStart, but many of them revolve around working with entrepreneurs, both on the tech and the non-tech side, to grow their businesses and grow their dreams. My background, quite frankly, is also similar to Michael Obi's background. I've been in the banking industry. I grew up in the banking industry, but I had a special privilege. I had the opportunity to run 4 different economic development organizations that were CDFI-like or CDFI certified community development banks. So I was president of these organizations and moved around the country running these organizations, which put me right in contact with underserved communities that needed resources, utilizing, in this case, a regulated entity in order to try to accomplish some economic development in those communities.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen, for those introductions. For those who are attending, you can definitely engage in the conversation that we're having by putting any kind of questions or comments in the chat. Those will be fielded to us so that we can address those throughout the presentation. So gentlemen, let's maybe just start on a few statistics to kind of give some background about why a community conversation is so needed within our particular region. I recently came across 2 reports that came out over the past few months. One was released by Policy Bridges, Resetting the Table, an Urban Agenda for Cleveland. And another one that I typically read on an annual basis is the 2021 Small Business Credit Survey. I wanted to review some of the takeaways from those reports and maybe just initially get some of your thoughts about them. For example, firms' financial conditions declined sharply between 2019 and 2020. One of the reports stated that firms owned by people of color represented greater challenges. For example, Black firms the challenge for them was credit availability, while Asian firms reported disproportionate cited weak demand. Applications for non-emergency funding decreased from 2019, which was 43% to 37% in 2019 and 2020 respectively. 62% of firms use personal funds to address their financial challenges. Black entrepreneurs greatly lag that of whites and other minorities, with Black businesses making up only 2.2% of all firms with employees. And one of the more staggering kind of statistics that I read was that over the past 70 years, there's been little difference as far as the wealth and income gap between minorities and their white counterparts. When you hear statistics like that, what kind of comes to mind? What's in your heart, your soul, and say, hey, this is what are you thinking about that when you hear statistics and disparities like that? Obi,
Well,
go ahead, Blue.
I'll take an initial stab at it. As you were saying, I've read them before, and as you were saying them again, the first thing as an emotional response, I'm super disappointed. It's hurtful, it's painful to hear those kinds of statistics and what's happening in society. We need to do more. More needs to be done. We need to have much more focus on these issues and challenges. And I mean that from the entire community, not just say from an African-American perspective. This is a national crisis, it's a regional crisis, and clearly it's a local crisis here in the Cleveland metropolitan area. It is a result, it's clearly a result of discrimination and racism that has been built in to our country's history, and it needs to be overcome. And we need to really challenge ourselves more and more every day to do everything we can to make a difference. I personally believe that Michael Obi and yourself, Michael Elliott, and myself, as Black professionals, you know, we need to get up every day with the mindset, what can I do and what do I need to accomplish today in order to put a dent in those kind of statistics and this situation. I know that I have a commitment to it. I know that both of you all have a commitment to it, and we just need to continue to press forward and give opportunities to our entrepreneur community, small business community, so that they can become a part of, quote unquote, the American dream and economic wealth building society here.
Awesome. Obi, go ahead.
Yeah, to answer your question, just like Lamont said, well, the emotional side. This emotional side is one of the main reasons I started this work back in 2003 in partnership with the Urban League. Those statistics have been around for a long time. Yeah. They are not new.
Yep.
It's just unfortunate that it's taken this long. George Floyd had to happen for America to begin to seriously pay attention and address these disparities. But this disparity was the main reason we started the Entrepreneurship Center at the Urban League, because back in 2004, there was really no place for small minority businesses to go and get help. You know, as 2004, as recent as that is, we were trying to build this ecosystem in 2004. The same time JumpStart was starting. JumpStart was focusing on high tech, on tech, which is really the foundation that it was started. And we were also trying to start this community-based technical assistance to help close this gap, because what was happening around that time, to remind everybody in Cleveland, the manufacturing sector went into great recession. The steel mill, the factories were leaving Cleveland and going to China. And Urban League was training people to go get jobs, but there was no job. And there was huge unemployment in the Black community. That's when this wealth gap even got wider and continue to get widened. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, and I'm so glad resources are beginning to trickle to service providers like what we're doing at the Urban League and what is happening with, even in the Hispanic community, that there's an awareness. So we need to just continue as a community to bring more resources to match the awareness and the outrage that everybody feels. How could that be? I didn't know that. And as we go into the discussion, I'm sure we'll get more specific on some of the things that have been in place or continue to build in the infrastructure to help close some of that gap.
Thank you, Obi. And you're right. These statistics are definitely not new. They've been around for over 70 years as far as disparities within the various communities. Let's really get into how our particular ecosystem here in Cleveland, because we are definitely fortunate to have a lot of service providers who are assisting to help close that income, wealth, small business gap, capital gap within our area. Lamont, I'm going to start with you. Maybe touch on JumpStart. For those who may not know or who may be familiar with JumpStart, can we talk about how your organization is working to help close the wealth gap within our communities?
Yeah, and I'll make a bridge between the entrepreneur or small business persons who want to develop a small business and move it forward, or small business is up and running already that needs to move. I want to encourage everyone who's listening to us, or if you're listening to us and you're not interested necessarily in starting a business, but people who are in your family or in your community, to really push on people to take advantage of these free resources that are here to help an entrepreneur develop and grow their business. And it's a lot of resources that are available to do that, but I'm disappointed in a large degree that not enough of us are taking advantage of these resources like JumpStart, like the Urban League, and so many more in our community, President's Council, ECDI, all of these CDCs, just organizations that have resources, yet we are not stepping up in the middle of a terrible crisis, in the middle of all those statistics you laid out. We're not stepping up to take advantage of it. So I want to encourage everybody to do that as number one. As far as JumpStart is concerned, JumpStart is a fairly new organization compared to something like the Urban League. We've been around now 17 plus years. And we started out as an organization that focused on tech and the tech industry, basically venture capital, or what would be called innovative ideas, some type of special new idea that leads to a major breakthrough in an industry. So when you think of that, you need to be thinking about companies like Amazon or Facebook or Microsoft, or those types of companies that come up with innovation that changes the lives of people and how we do and act in our country, and for that matter in the world, and they become big opportunities. And by the way, I just want to say, a life-changing opportunity for a lot of our white brothers and sisters around the world, but not necessarily for people of color. And so I'm pushing on the idea that some of you who have great ideas, and we've had in our history great ideas, but have not pushed them forward enough to allow for those ideas to find their way into a venture capital world, where economically, if that idea is that good, it'll change your position wealth-wise. You will be wealthy almost overnight because of those ideas. So I want to encourage that. So we still have that opportunity, and we still do that at JumpStart. The other thing we do at JumpStart is for what we call our non-tech businesses, or our small business owners in our community. And that came about primarily because of the idea that we had these templates, we had these resources, we had these formats that were helping businesses grow, primarily tech businesses grow. And why not take those instruments, those learnings, those opportunities, and also present them to small businesses in our community and our neighborhood communities that we're sitting right next to, and share those resources in the non-tech businesses, and allow them to take advantage of the opportunities to move forward and grow. So we created programs around that. And since about 2015, we've been engaged in helping small businesses that don't necessarily have quote unquote a technology, but have an idea to start a business and or have a business and want to grow that business to another level. We have a program called the Impact Program that we've had numerous graduates over the last few years engaged in, where they go. It's a cohort-based 12-week very intense program that leads to the opportunity to be granted $10,000 at the end of it if you're the winner of the contest that we have is associated with that. And we have another program that works alongside of that called the Blueprint Program, which helps entrepreneurs get in a position so that they can get in and be a part of an impact program. So we've created some instruments and opportunities to help our entrepreneurs and small businesses, both on the tech and non-tech side, have an opportunity to grow and develop and to participate in our ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lamont. Michael Obi, the Urban League of Greater Cleveland has been around in the city of Cleveland for over 100 years, being very responsive to the needs of all communities, but specifically African-American communities. And they've all evolved over time. Can you touch a little bit on the work of the Urban League of Greater Cleveland in the recent history and how they're seeking to better position businesses, particularly minority businesses, for wealth and capital gains?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I love the history of the Urban League. The history of Urban League is really the history of pretty much the Black migration, great migration into the industrial North. There's hardly a family in Cleveland that has roots, a Black family that migrated, whose ancestors migrated from the South to the North here in Cleveland, that there's no one in that family that would not have a story how Urban League helped them get their first job. So the history of Urban League was really during the Great Migration. Families were coming from the South to Cleveland, Chicago, different northern industrial cities, and help Urban League was the go-to place to help families adapt to the North, both in housing, job training, and job placement, and things like that. So that has been the root and the backbone of the programs. Urban League is regarded the do tank. You know, you have think tanks, people that think about it. Urban League is the doing, more programmatic. You follow me? So that's the background, the rich history of the Urban League. When I got in touch with the Urban League in 2003, the biggest challenge at that time was unemployment. Unemployment was huge, and people, particularly Black men, the unemployment was like 30%, Black youth unemployment at that time in Cleveland. So because of the factories that have shut down. So we had to find ways to create jobs in the community. Fortune 500 companies have gone from, I think, like 16 in Cleveland to like 6 at the time. So large companies were gone in Cleveland. So we began this journey of how do we start creating jobs the way it used to be, back during segregation. Not that we want to go back to segregation, but we had rich history in the Black community of entrepreneurship. And my roots in Nigeria, and where I came from, I came here as a college student, and I'm used to everybody having a business. So what is this obsession with everybody? You got to work for somebody. So I used that passion and began to say, how do we build a place where we could begin to revitalize the entrepreneurship spirit in the minority community, particularly African Americans? So that's really the journey. And we became the first in Cleveland within the Urban League movement, about 90 affiliates or so, to start an entrepreneurship center. So what we do is we host the SBDC, which is a SBA program. for Cuyahoga County called Small Business Development Center. The director of that is Felicia Townsend. And they help every business, every small business to start, grow, and sustain their business. So they help you with ideation. How do I register my business? How do I get my tax ID? The nuts and bolts, how do I put it together, operating agreement, a business plan? What is the bank looking for? So that's the whole detail. They help everybody. And you don't have to be Black to come. Everybody, Hispanics, whites. When you come to workshop, when we were in person of SBDC, you'll think you are the United Nations. They have immigrants, everybody in the room learning how to do business in the state of Ohio. Very, very great program. We also are the host for the state of Ohio MBAC. MBAC stands for Minority Business Assistance Center, which the governor, every governor in every administration uses the MBAC as a mechanism to increase minority set aside and minority participation. So we handle all the MBE certification, H certification, and disadvantaged business certification for 8 counties in Northeast Ohio. So Cuyahoga, Lorain, Lake, Geauga, Portage, and so on and so forth. The director of that is Shoshana Duckworth. And we have business advisors that work with these businesses to help them get contracts. Last year alone, the clients they work with received $68 million in contracts in 1 year, in the middle of the pandemic, by the way. So they do great. We do great work at the Entrepreneurship Center at the Urban League. Now, the most exciting thing that I would like to talk about is the newest arm of this journey of helping close the wealth gap and building stronger Black businesses in our community, is our lending arm. Michael Elliott, you remember when you were with NDC? We started this effort because the businesses, while we get them ready, they still have challenges with securing traditional capital. And as a former banker, most of us here work for banks. There are some limitations of what banks could do to help someone who is not quite ready for capital to get ready. So we created this lending arm called UBiz, Venture Capital, to bring technical assistance with capital to marry them together. So while we are coaching you and trying to get you to get your house in order, we're now aligned working capital with that. That has been our secret sauce. And the first 2 years we piloted with the partnership with NDC. We deployed $4.2 million to about 30 businesses. This year alone, this new fund that we started in January, and thanks to JumpStart, that is also an investor in that fund, we have deployed loan and grants to 30-something businesses already in 1 year in the middle of pandemic. Granted, they are micro loan and small loans, but it's making a difference because these businesses need a new website. They need to start going online, pivoting to online delivery system and online catalog. They may not have the 5,000 or 10,000 to do that. So we've been able to do all those micro loans for the businesses. It could be a QuickBooks, PPP, expose the inadequacy in our Black-owned businesses because they didn't have the paperwork required. They don't have the payroll system and the accounting system to apply for some of this relief program. So we started buying QuickBooks through this program for the businesses and paying a bookkeeper to help install it because QuickBooks software, you could buy it from Sam's Club or Costco, but it takes a lot more work to set it up. So we learn by, that is a big bottleneck. So we engage CPAs to work with this business. So we call that program called Becoming Bankable. And we're helping businesses fix their credit and begin the journey to accessing low cost and flexible capital.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for those who are interested in learning more about that program, we will be putting that information in the chat. so that you can quickly link to their resources and follow up with the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. Just for those who are joining, we are having a conversation as it relates to our ecosystem and small business lending. If you're interested in putting in a question, feel free to do that in the chat. And in the next few minutes, I'll be reading some of those questions. Gentlemen, the last couple of years have been very difficult for small businesses. The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on our area as well as the world. What have we learned as an ecosystem? What has your organizations experienced or heard from the businesses? And how over the past year and a half, 2 years, has your organization seek to support those businesses? And what can we see potentially in 2022 for your business, for your organizations? Lamont, if you don't mind taking that question first.
Yeah, man, not a problem. I appreciate it. And I omitted to say that we'll also put out in the chat as well information about the Impact Program, Blueprint Program, our website, so that the people can get connected to those opportunities as well. We're really looking for people to engage with these programs. I would say that the big learning is that people and entrepreneurs are in fact resilient. Man, I tell you, it was great to see. And they also were very appreciative of what economic development organizations like the Urban League and JumpStart and others did to assist in this process. And I'll get to that in a minute. But the other thing that I learned, and that was, I think, fantastic, was the pivot is real. We talk about everybody pivoting and making adjustments and, doing what they need to do. We saw small businesses pivot. They made some critical decisions about how they needed to survive and what they needed to do to continue their journey. It showed me that faith was real, determination was real, hard work was real, thoughtfulness about your next steps was real, creating a formal plan of how you were going to get through this was real. The famous never give up attitude all of a sudden really showed up in a lot of different cases. These are real characteristics of our present entrepreneurial community that really showed up. And it was wonderful to see, and clearly it needed to happen because we, particularly in the people of color community, because that would be devastating if people didn't at least put forth the effort and try to move forward. So we were great. I was just absolutely great to see that. Absolutely great to see that. JumpStart played a role. I'm very happy to say, as it related to providing capital. We were a part of the sustainability funds that took place here in the greater Cleveland area. But at the time, we also were administrating a program that covered communities in New York and other communities throughout Ohio. And so we were involved in deploying and leveraging out about $2 million of funds to small businesses, literally people of color, female-owned businesses that needed assistance in underserved communities in order to survive and find a way through that. So we're very pleased with that. But the other piece that I think is equally as important is not only the capital, because you need capital. So that's the gasoline, if you will, of the small business. But you also need to have leveraging the responsibility and the opportunities that an organization like JumpStart can do from its experience, from its knowledge, from its organizational skills to help a small business figure it out and work with them to really have the best plan and approach possible in order to survive. So I'm super proud of the way that JumpStart responded to that and decided to really pull together all of our resources, all of what I call our capital, the funding capital, the money, but also the capital, intellectual, experiential capital that we had in order to help entrepreneurs and small businesses survive.
Awesome. Michael Obi, your organization played a vital role in the recovery of small businesses within this area. Can you touch on the work that this Urban League of Greater Cleveland has been doing as it relates to COVID-19?
Yes. COVID-19, while it was challenging and we really regret the loss of life and all the people that have lost loved ones, um, COVID-19 also made all of us to wake up to or opened, exposed this disparity in a real economic sense, because we talk about the need to do technical assistance in our community, in the Black business community. There are a lot of education that is needed about the right way to run a business by the numbers. A lot of our entrepreneurs, they know the skill, they know how to do hair, for example, they know how to cook, they know how to manufacture a product, they know how to deliver a service, they own a construction company, but they have not, a lot of our business in our community have not been exposed to the economics of that business in terms of the margins, in terms of the having the right infrastructure, your back office in place, payroll system, accounting system in place. That's part of why we challenge getting traditional capital. So when the pandemic hit, PPP started, we know the first round ran out because the large businesses that had the sophistication, that had their paperwork together, got all the money, right? So I know it's been a long time, but most of us remember that. So we had to pivot and began to do really fire drill webinars with SB in partnership with SBA, workshops to educate our community. And also at the national level, we began to lobby the Congress people to modify the policies and the guideline for the PPP. So the little guys have time to get their papers together before the big guys took all the money. So that became effective. With the second round was modified and allowed the smaller businesses a crack at getting their PPP loans. So we had to do a lot of workshops virtually. So what it did for us from a delivery standpoint, we are able to serve. We have people from outside Cleveland that typically will come in person for workshops. Now they can use Zoom. We never did that before. So we're able to serve in 2020. There's some numbers I'll share with you here. Our average number of businesses we served before the COVID was about 1,000 a year. In 2020, we served 2,600 businesses, more than double, more than double, about 141% increase of the number of this. So we are serving more people now. There's an awareness of the need to have your numbers together, to have your back office together. So that awareness is really helping our businesses actually grow. So this year, a lot of our businesses are doing quite well in 2021. They went from having the worst year in 2020 to having one of their best years in 2021, which is a good thing. So we are trying to help them now manage that growth, continue to leverage capital. How do you hire? Staffing is a big challenge in this pandemic. How do we help them to recruit and really retain workers? So that's just in a nutshell, before, during, and hopefully there'll be an after story.
Excellent. Let's field some of these questions here. I got a few come through here. First question from the audience. How are different regional organizations working together to solve community challenges, specifically for our small businesses? Lamont, did you want to take that first, or anyone can jump in?
Yeah, I'll go and respond. The collaboration piece is a very important piece, I think extremely important piece in our community, where economic development organizations are talking to one another about the problem overall, but also more specifically about the various entrepreneurs and how each of us can support those entrepreneurs. And that has been going on. As Michael mentioned earlier, we partner with the Urban League, we partner with ECDI, with other organizations in our community in order to strengthen our abilities united to strengthen a specific entrepreneur, but also specific communities as well. So that it's very important. The Business Growth Collaborative has been around now for a few years. There are other informal and formal kinds of collaborations or relationships that are built. We joint venture in doing pitch contests and all kinds of things that might go on to help facilitate the growth and the development of entrepreneurs and small businesses in our community. We want that to be more healthy, more collaborative, more engaging, because I believe the more all of us come together, and I'm talking about the organizations in this case, around our strategies and our synergies and our resources, the better chance we have to solve a really big problem. And your statistics that you talked about earlier suggest that we have a really big problem. So we shouldn't be working isolated on an island, but we should be working together to try to do whatever we can, bringing whatever muscle we have in our organization to the table to address these big problems and challenges.
Thank you, Michael Obi. You have a national Urban League has, of course, a national footprint. So you may be hearing other efforts out there across the country. Can you maybe speak to any of them that you may be familiar with?
Yeah, well, I want to start here at home in Cleveland in terms of collaboration. Actually, we have a model that a lot of cities would envy having. I really want to applaud the ecosystem that we have really built in the past 15 years or so that didn't exist when we started this work in 2004. A lot has sprung up. We have ECDI that does a lot of micro loan. We have Magnet, we have JumpStart, we have Hispanic Business Chamber. We have a lot of people, the CDCs, and a lot of people doing a lot of things to help small businesses. And the BGC, Business Growth Collaborative, that Lamont mentioned, has been a great tool to bring all of us together in one room every month, sharing. This client I'm helping over here with business plan. They need capital. ECDI, could you help with that? Or ECDI is helping someone with capital, but they could do micro loan, but they need more like 150,000 that at UBiz we have the capacity to do. Then we will join and help out and do that. We're also doing a workshop. Before we started our own loan program, we had ECDI become our partner in doing some of the micro small ticket loans for businesses that we're trying to help rebuild their credit. So the ecosystem we have here is great. We just need to market it better. We need to communicate it better so people know where to go and how to access those resources. Nationally, we are part of a network of other cities through the Urban League. I think this model we built in Cleveland here has been replicated in 12 additional cities. So we collaborate with those programs. The most recent collaboration that ties to the pandemic was the PepsiCo Foundation gave National Urban League $10 million. And Cleveland was one of the 10 cities that was picked to do restaurant Accelerator program to help businesses, Black restaurants that were really struggling to pivot during the pandemic. And I helped to facilitate this Accelerator program. Last year, we graduated our first class. There are about 13 businesses, the restaurants that went through that program. Those that successfully completed the work. 12 of them, actually a total of, we give out $10,000 each. $130,000 was deployed to these businesses to buy that new cooler, to redo the website to become more of a marketplace where people could really order food and have a delivery person come and deliver it to the home in the middle of this pandemic. So solving real problems. So that program was a national collaboration that we were part of to really put resources in these Black restaurants. And we're going to be doing that. This is a 5-year program. So I love the programs that are not one-time hit. I call them drive-by shooting. I don't like drive-by shooting programs where it's just one-shot deal and it's gone. So we really negotiated and talked with Pepsi, and they were generous enough. And Westfield Insurance locally provided a match fund, a small percentage of the match. And we're talking with them about continuing to do that over the next 5 years. So next year class will be kicking off. So anybody that is a Black-owned restaurant that is interested in this program could just be on the lookout for the email and the social media in the first quarter next year. So that's going to go on the next 5 years. And if you go through the program and you do what you are asked to do to improve your business, you receive $10,000 grant. It's not a loan. You get a $10,000 grant to help your business. So there are a lot of things that are out there.
Awesome, gentlemen. I'm going to go back to some additional questions from the audience. Can you talk about some of the local organizations and resources available to support the unique challenges of the Hispanic small business community? Anyone can take that question.
Well, I think I'll speak if it's about resources available to that community specifically. HBC, the Hispanic Business Center, clearly is an organization that has programs directed not only for that community, but the broader community as well. But they're located right in a central and important community in our city, Clark Fulton, and certainly have the resources to assist and direct and to help small businesses in that regard. So shout out to them and that worked in that regard. We, JumpStart, just recently approved a Hispanic strategic plan because we knew that we had to do more, and we were challenged by the Latino Hispanic community to do more as related to the Hispanic community. So I'm proud that we just recently approved a program that is going to be running in conjunction with our strategic plan over the next few years, but most specifically directly related to the next 6 months. The program was absolutely was approved recently in November by our board of directors, and it calls for us over the next 6 months to deploy $250,000 to Hispanic businesses to be more proximate and active in the Hispanic community, to support with technical assistance 100 Latino Hispanic businesses, to engage with 200 Latino Hispanic youth and adults through our Verizon-based program, and there's going to be opening in the Clark Fulton area. So we have a number of agenda items and programmatic items that we have to do to impact and bring more of our muscle, if you will, our resources, our assets, our capacity to that community. And we've decided, with the encouragement of that community, to partner, to be a partner in helping address the challenges there as well. And I should also say that another piece of it that we recognize that we have some ability in is, if through the American Rescue Plan Act, we can raise additional funding for the ecosystem, we hope that a large portion, I would say millions of dollar portion of that money, would be directed at partners that are proximate and located in that community, that are focused on the development of the Hispanic community, Latino Hispanic community, that those resources will be put in place there through those partners to carry out activities. So we want to utilize our influential power, if you will, to assist others to be able to carry out their agenda, their plans, their activities, their programs in the Hispanic community. That's we're going to utilize and leverage that ability of JumpStart to do that as well. And that's a part of the plan as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me add to that. We are partners with Hispanic Business Chamber in running the SBDC, Small Business Development Center. There's a center at the Hispanic Chamber right on the West 25th. There's one at the Urban League on the East Side, Prospect and 30th. And most people don't know that we are part of a network. So really, there are some core competencies the Hispanic Business Chamber SBDC has that we don't have at the Urban League and vice versa. So when we do workshop, we collaborate. So you don't have to be Black to come to the Urban League SBDC, and you don't have to be Hispanic to go to Hispanic Chamber SBDC to participate in their workshop. What I tell people is that we believe in one stop, but not under one roof. So anybody can come and take advantage of the program that I've talked about. Our loan program, we were fortunate to receive 2.25 million loan pool through Department of Commerce. It's called EDA Revolving Loan Fund. That fund is for everybody, okay? It's for everybody. We wanted to, but we said our emphasis is gonna be on minorities and disadvantaged businesses, but it's for everybody. So I want to just encourage everybody to come and take advantage. I'm sure Lamont, things that he talked about, it's not just for Black, because Lamont and I are Black people, does not mean that everything we do is exclusively for Black people. We serve everyone. So I encourage our Hispanic brothers and sisters to come and take advantage of every program we talked about.
Michael, if you don't mind, I'd like to just follow up with what Michael Obi just said too. It triggered something. And I hear a lot in our ecosystem about, well, why do we need the Urban League do this? And why does HBC need to be doing that? Or why does ECI do that? Or why is the president? We need all of us with our, I call it the flavor, our different flavors, our different approaches, our different uniqueness to be engaged in helping entrepreneurs. We just need all of our abilities, our skill sets, our cultural competencies to really be a reflection of our work together in order to move a client or move a small business forward. And I will tell you, the ones that I find in our ecosystem that are most successful, they've knocked on all of our doors. They've utilized all of our different skill sets and our abilities to engage with them in order for them to have an opportunity to be successful. So I just wanted to piggyback Michael Obi's comments around just this is open to the broader community, but please continue to take advantage of all of these unique and special organizations that can assist you in growing your business if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner.
We got a lot of great questions coming through. I'm gonna shoot this one over to you, Michael Obi, since you're an entrepreneur. Question is, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give a solopreneur making the shift towards being an employer?
Have a lot of guts. I always tell anyone wanting to start a business is just make sure you're passionate about it. This is not for the faint of heart. Okay, this is, a lot of people say, well, I don't like my boss. I'm gonna quit my job to start my own business. Yeah, that may be one of the reasons, but there better be more than that. Entrepreneurship is difficult, okay? But it is gratifying. It's more than just you, right? So when you get to a point where you feel like you want to do more than you could create jobs for other people. You see a need in the community for a service or a product that is missing, that you feel with your magic touch, you could turn it into a gold mine. Those are reasons to start an entrepreneurship journey, not because you hate your boss. Okay, so the first is really get into business for the right reasons. Because if you think it's going to be easy, you're in for a huge surprise. Okay, because it will cost you to mortgage your house. It will cost you to dry up your savings to pursue that thing that you really love. So that tenacity and that commitment is really what it people. I've heard someone say that for you to start a business and be a true entrepreneur, you have to really act. You really have to be like a crazy person. No, really think about it. You do things that people think are nuts. The most successful entrepreneurs, if they tell you what they went through, an average employee working for a company could never do that. Yeah, it takes a crazy mindset to sleep in your car because you're pursuing a business when you could have just go and get a job and play safe. Yeah, so those are the kind of drives, commitment, and actually banks look for that. They wouldn't say it exactly as colorful I just did because they're not going to encourage you to sleep in your car. But that commitment is what gets you to go through the storm that you may face. That makes you go through a pandemic and still standing. So that's the number one, just on the emotional side. But on a more practical side, start the foundation the right way. Make sure you have your numbers, you have financials. I'm not going to get into your product you're going to make because that's where you are the expert, right? So whatever it is you're doing, make sure somebody's going to buy it. You'll be surprised people walking around that they want to start a business and what they are selling, nobody's really buying. So you make sure what you're selling, people are buying, so you're going to take care of that. But you need to make sure you have the back office in order. Have bookkeeping, have your financial, get an accountant, set it up the right way so that you know when you're making money and when you're losing money. Those are very, very important. I know I don't have a lot of time to go into more detail, but those are just the foundational things that must be on the emotional level, on the passion level, and on that practical level, getting your infrastructure in place before you now move. And once you get the business started, make sure that it's not all about you. Make sure you delegate. Make sure you build a team. Make sure that you have somebody handling the books. Pay someone to do that website so you can focus on generating revenue.
Well said. Thank you, sir. And that's coming straight from somebody who's been doing business for a pretty long time. So thank you for those points. We got a lot of great, I want to get to at least one or two more of these questions here. Here's kind of a unique one, and I can relate as a young professional. How can young professionals interested in supporting resilient minority businesses get involved in these economic development efforts? Anyone can take that question.
We are hiring.
Go for it.
So yeah, absolutely. Any young professional, and the work we do is really gratifying. I've seen a lot of people walk out of a high salary paying job and join this type of work because they want to make a difference in the community. So yeah, there are some volunteering opportunities, but it's kind of a little difficult in the middle of the pandemic. So, but we are hiring. Our program, the demand for our services just busting off the scene. Like I told you, going from 1,000 businesses, clients to 1,600 in 1 year. That's stretching our resources. So we're raising money and we're hiring people so that we could do more for the community. So we're looking for If you have any financial background, you're an accounting major, finance major, where you understand balance sheet and income statement, we could train you on how to do coaching. We're looking to hire young professionals. So by all means, someone should email me, or we'll put my email address on the chat. Send me your resume. We're definitely looking for a few good people.
And I'll just add real quickly to that, get involved with the ecosystem, go to the workshops, go to where the entrepreneurs are gathering, the small business owners are gathering. That can be at the business meetings, business association meetings in neighborhoods. It could be at any of the various different organizations that are putting on these workshops and seminars where they gather. You can participate in some of the organizations that are not only organizations, but also companies that are putting out different things that they're doing, the pop-ups and all of the creative ways in which entrepreneurs are getting the word out. Go to those occasions, those opportunities, and get involved with the system, and you might find something that catches your attention, how you can serve and how you can be involved.
I'll just add that as a younger professional, when I started off in my economic development career, I volunteered. Many nonprofit organizations are struggling with capacity, but they're looking for very passionate individuals who want to move the needle, for lack of a better term. So I actually volunteered with a few of the community development corporations around town to help with various projects they're working on. That'll be a great way to begin working with businesses, but specifically minority businesses in those areas. We got 3 more minutes, gentlemen. Any parting words to any of the businesses or maybe even partners on the call today about your organizations? Any plans to do anything special or unique within in 2022?
So I wanted to bring up one other point, just throw this out here, because it's one of these things that's really bothered me about the wealth building potential, particularly in the African-American community. It's probably applicable to other communities as well. But one of the lessons that we have not taken advantage of is legacy, meaning that we have a lot of opportunity. We have a lot of businesses that are built for one generation, and then they go away, they die, as opposed to being businesses that survive multiple generations. You talked about the wealth problems. You remember in your statistics, you talked about the wealth problem. In successful communities, nationalities and races and other geographic locations, when they are transferring what one generation built to the next generation, they don't have to start over. They got something they can leverage and go forth with. And if that happens 3, 4, 5 generations, you really do have something substantial now that's created what we said we want to have, wealth in our communities, as opposed to every generation starting over again. And there are businesses that are up for sale. Sometimes it's not a family, sometimes the kids are not interested in that business, but transferring that business as opposed to letting it die to somebody who wants to take it on. And you all know the examples I'm talking about in our community, in our African-American community, that have not been transferred, that should have been transferred, so that they could have continued on and built wealth in the community and been wealth builders for another family in our community or another group of people in our community, as opposed to that business dying and somebody's got to start over again.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, Lamont just teed it up for me, because that is exactly the strategic plan we completed at UBiz for our next evolution starting next year, is to we already segmented businesses in our community into legacy, growth, emerging, and micro. A lot of programs we talked about, we have focus a lot on the micro and emerging.
Correct.
But we don't have a lot for the legacy and growth business over $1 million. So we are now trying to raise our next fund. There's going to be a $50 million fund to begin to help sustain the legacy businesses that Lamont was talking about. Because for that first generation to retire, it is not fair to them to walk away and just hand the key to somebody else. They need all their retirement, all their resources been invested into that business. A lot of them don't have a lot put away for retirement. So what we want to do is to be able to have capital to help the next generation to acquire that business and use the youthful energy to take it to the next level. Okay. So that's what one of the strategies that we have planned for 2022 and beyond. And that's why we are raising $50 million, hopefully from the banks that love what we do could be a partner in this and investing in this fund. The government through the American Rescue Plan, we're asking the government, the city, the county, the state to invest in this fund because this is another way of closing the wealth gap. Because if that business can be sustained and create more jobs, and those jobs will be a higher paying jobs, then you begin to close the wealth gap in a meaningful way.
Exactly.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I enjoyed the conversation. A lot of resources available in our community, everyone. So please reach out to UBiz and Michael Elliott and his team. Reach out to JumpStart and Lamont. Reach out to ecosystem partners. There was a lot of questions that still went unanswered. Thank you for the participation by those who attended. We'll keep track of those questions and follow up with you so that we can get them answered. But again, until then, please keep on doing the great work that you're doing, entrepreneurs. We appreciate how you're impacting our economy and our neighborhoods as well. With that being said, thank you everyone for joining.